Okay, so Canberra win. It's their goal line defense and their penchant to be able to deliver more consistent attack.
Old Jedi, the master versus the Padawan now, which is Canterbury, who have, I think, just as much trouble scoring tries as the New Zealand Warriors do.
Hello and welcome back to Ahead of the Game Sports Chat, brought to you by bets.com.au. Sports Pairs, Jez, Tuck Sports Takes, here to dive into the NRL Semi Finals coming up this weekend. Jez, been a bit sick over the weekend, pal. How you feeling today?
Well, it was good because I got to chill out and watch footy. So undisturbed, no kids, no wife, got to lie on the couch and watch footy. So I was real sick, mate. No beers, but you gotta sacrifice something. I got some peace and quiet. But yes, footy, man, some big results on the weekend. A lot of them expected, but a couple of, I guess, unexpected results. A couple of roughies, you could say, had a win, but I don't know. Yeah, sad your Chookies bowed out, mate. They were our hot dark horse, and they went pew, gone.
Yeah, how bad? Like we spoke about it just before we got on. Now, just the handling errors and the ill discipline in the attack from the Roosters really kind of shot themselves in the foot. And Tedesco, you can't really blame him considering he carried the team through the second half of the season, or the last 2/3 of the season, really, and just how good he was. And in this game, he had a bit of a downer. Still wasn't like bad, but not at the same level he's been the last kind of 10 weeks.
Yeah, there was just a couple of inside balls that went to ground that if he was hot and on fire, they're the balls that put them down the field. If they don't score straight away, they score off the next set or off the next tackle or two. So there was those, and then it just didn't really feel like the halves connected so well with their outside men. And that was the whole thing with the Roosters. If they were going to win and they were going to go long into these finals, they were going to have to put up a lot of points and ride their attack. But if once these handling errors crept in and confidence was low, the Sharks did well to take advantage of it, which is not what the Sharks usually do against top sides. So that sort of put a new perspective maybe on the Sharks, at least for 1 week.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I don't know. We'll get into the Sharks a bit later, but we can also, just before we get into the previews of the games this weekend, Canberra, Brisbane. You can look at this game in so many different ways, but I want to first look at it from the perspective of a fan of the Canberra Raiders, thinking that you've won the game twice for it to be ripped away.
Yeah, it was crazy. And you think even like on social media, I've seen all these, too soon posts where like Fox Sports and other news websites had put up both times that the Canberra Raiders had won that final, and it was incorrect. So, yeah, but how heartbroken. I don't think I've ever experienced a game like that before where both of those instances, it gets taken away. And then, of course, Ben Hunt kicks a field goal that skims off the post to make it even more dramatic and win the game off their sort of first crack. But what a wild game. I think it was exactly what everybody expected, though. It was always going to be a tight contest there. And kudos to Brisbane, who came back from a 14, 16-point deficit to win. It shows that they've, Reece Walsh, I think we were on him to not really handle the pressure, and he seemed to come out and handle the pressure extremely well. So that's a big maturity tick for young Reece Walsh, and we'll, see if they can then hold that. Now they get a home prelim, which is massive.
Massive. It's like throughout the season, we spoke so much about the Broncos and their ability to really kind of put on points and beat up on teams, but then they had some games where they just looked like a bottom 4 team almost, and just nothing was going right. And you would have not been blamed thinking coming into this game with no Adam Reynolds, no Ezra Mam, that they would have struggled a lot more. But the resilience to have 2 guys off the field and then come back and put on that performance, just it's something. I think you got to credit the coaching, I think, a little bit. Say what you want about Madge in his career, but that right there, coming back against the minor premiers in that game on the road, that's resilience right there.
Yeah, and fitness. I like listening to Reece Walsh's interview after the game. He was just like, everybody gets on Madge for training too hard. And Reece Walsh, the first thing he said, he's like, we put all the effort in. We got absolutely slaughtered early in training camp, but we knew that we were the ones that were going to have the pace and be able to. We had the energy in the end to lift and do it. And you could say either way because it was obviously almost like luck or chance, but you've got to build your own luck. And they had the fitness to do it. And obviously Reece Walsh, gave kudos to Madge in that aspect that we've trained for this. We've been doing the hard yards and now it's actually paying off. And yeah, just absolutely epic. And Kotoni Staggs, what a beast, man. Like,
oh, man.
What a beast. He's just absolutely come on at this back end of the season. And just every time he touched the ball, it just felt like something was going to happen. And his defense was just, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. It's funny. I listen a lot to the NRL, what's it called? Unpopular Opinions, the Ned's podcast with Jaral, Yao Yi, and those boys. And he said, Kotoni Staggs, he's primed for a big one. He's going to be the guy.
Yeah.
And just that first run, or all of his runs, really, like he's an animal. When he wants to turn it on, and he just decides, like, hey, no one's getting me. No one's getting me today. Yeah. He's just he's a beast.
Yeah, like I think like a few years ago, he was just he played like that every game. He was like the best center in the competition. He was an absolute animal. And then it just sort of, he had a few injuries and stuff and it feels like, okay, now he's back to his prime again. So you just hope he stays out of injury trouble and we get to see even next season the real Kotoni Staggs.
Do we need to dive into Melbourne Bulldogs or Warriors Panthers, or do we pick kind of that up?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think those games pretty much played out, I guess, how most people would have thought. I think a lot of the tippers said, yes, Melbourne at home were going to be too strong. Canterbury's attack was going to struggle. And yeah, the Panthers were the Panthers. They just grinded down the Warriors. The Warriors were in it, but they did all the work. They had to work all early. And then the Panthers just ran away with it in the end. And that's what the Panthers do.
Yeah. The Toby Sexton thing is going to be interesting, with him coming onto the field, scoring with his first touch. Obviously, it wasn't him setting it up that made it, but you saw quite a dynamic shift in the play with him on the field, and now he'll looks like he will start the game with Crichton in the reserves because of that injury. You wouldn't think Crichton plays but
no, how he sort of hobbled around there for a little bit and then got taken off and straight into a moon boot. I think it's a big risk. I think I don't know. Like, it's always those risks in finals, isn't it? It's like play now or save you for the prelim or for the final. I don't know. I think it's better to give him the week off and hope you guys get through it so he's fit for the prelim and the final instead of rushing him back and something happening and then he's gone and you don't get through without Crichton. I don't think. You don't win a grand final without Stephen Crichton.
No, definitely not. All right, well, let's hit the first game of the weekend. The Canberra Raiders up against the Cronulla Sharks. And my sub-heading here, Jez, can the Green Machine regroup? Because as we touched on, that game against Brisbane, just the energy that gets sucked out of thinking you've won and then you haven't, like, that is such a drain mentally. You heard Brad Clyde on the Matty John show straight after the game say, I would expect the guys to have a couple of days off just to regroup mentally, because physically they'll be all right playing 95 minutes or whatever it was. That's not going to be a problem for them. But the mental toll of going through that game and coming out the other end losing is going to be the hardest thing to overcome. You as a professional sports player, how do you kind of see that process for the Green Machine? Do you think they can regroup?
Firstly, I don't appreciate you laughing when you say that. Like, I've got my own sporting accolades. I'm not gonna, let everybody know what I've done in my life. So don't take the piss, all right? but yeah, I think it is really tough. Like, mental toughness is a big thing, and we've talked about this a little bit with the Raiders coming into the finals was, do they have the maturity in finals to be able to win games? And this is going to raise big questions, and probably is the biggest question coming into this game for the Raiders. Like, otherwise you would sort of tick the box. Canberra beat Cronulla 24-20 earlier in the year, way earlier in the year at GIO on a Thursday night. So they have that. They've been strong against top 8 teams. Cronulla aren't strong against top 8 teams, but to be able to regroup after that without a lot of finals experience is going to be very, very difficult, because I think if they don't come out and take a strong lead and dominate the Sharks, that's when the ghosts come into your brain and start haunting you. And even if, they did throw away a 14, 16 point lead, as we said, so they need to be in full control of this game to maybe not fall into that quicksand we talk about where shit just starts to go wrong and the demons haunt, and then they lose this one as well. Like, look what happened to the Adelaide Crows in the AFL, minor premiers, go out in straight sets. Like, is that going to happen to the Canberra Raiders? Are they mentally strong? Like, Ricky Stuart will do a lot. I think Ricky Stuart's probably a good coach to have in this situation. He's all about the mental game and mental toughness, and he'll be throwing that they're the underdog in there after what's happened and the Sharks are on a high and put them in a good, strong place. But you just don't hope that those demons haunt them. Well, if you're a Canberra fan, that is.
Yeah, and you look at the stats as well from this Raiders and Broncos game. The first half was a pretty even affair. I just look at the tackles inside 20 now, 13 to the Raiders, 20 to the Broncos. But the second half was crazy. Only 5 tackles inside the opposition 20 for Canberra, but 21 for the Broncos. And you've seen the momentum of that game, and we speak about momentum a lot more in AFL because of the way that it really affects how teams perform. But here, the Raiders just could not stop the roll on. And you talk about resilience in terms of the Broncos, the resilience of the Raiders to not be able to make a stop or try and find a way to wrestle some of that momentum back. Like, I don't think they're going to come up against that type of play against Cronulla, but you worry about that in a grand final against a prelim, against one of those other teams that are going to be sitting there waiting for them. Who would be Melbourne? I think they play, right?
Well, they can't play Brisbane again, so they play Melbourne.
Melbourne.
Yeah.
And Strange was good, but he went missing a little bit in the second half.
Yeah, exactly right. It's exactly what I was about to jump in and say. It's like, listen to Cooper Cronk a lot, and it's where he talks about it in Origin and in these big games. It's when you need your halves to step up and do something. You've got to take a calculated risk to win possession or win territory back when a team is like running over you. And it just felt like they were playing too safe. They were sitting back on that lead, but they needed to do something before it was too late. And it ended up being too late. Like, they should never have been in the position where it was down to a field goal or a penalty kick at the end of the game. Something needed to happen. Strange, been phenomenal, but like you said, went missing a little bit. Fogarty plays the percentage plays too much. They needed something special from somebody, and they just didn't have that. They didn't find that. They needed a big play, a line break, or one of their experienced players to do something. And that's where we sort of say, do they have the finals experience? Do they have these experienced players to be able to cut that momentum shift and do a 40-20 or something?
Yeah,
but it just didn't happen. Didn't come. Nobody stood up.
And this could just be a one. Like, I think everybody's spoken about this Canberra Raiders team all season long. Can they keep doing this? Can they keep? But they've shown that they can. So this might just be one of those games. The ball bounced wildly for them a couple of times. This whole narrative could be extremely different if the ball had bounced just the other way. That knock on at the end, or whatever. On the other end of the field, the Cronulla Sharks, and I remember thinking about when I watched this game and that we were going to speak about this. two of Cronulla's tries. So the Toby Rudolph one at the end was a great try. They found out that middle defense, but the game was essentially over. But the two tries earlier in the game came off not Cronulla getting to the Roosters 20 and their attack. So one of them was the Sam Walker dropped the ball, hit his boot, bounced up, and they ran almost 60 meters, got tackled, and then they scored off the next 2 or 3 plays. A similar thing in the first try. It was an intercept. Something happened. They ran almost the length of the field, got tackled. The defense was unstructured. They passed a couple of tries, and then they scored. Those types of plays, you're not going to get that against Canberra. You were lucky to get it against the Roosters, and you were lucky that the Roosters shot themselves in the foot in their own attack and couldn't get those points back. I think Cronulla's win here is a false kind of a false positive, where it like gives them confidence that they shouldn't have, because they shouldn't have won that game.
Yeah, and like they're coming up against Canberra, who we use our opposition or efficiency inside 20 meters. So Canberra can withstand pressure, even if the Sharks build pressure. Canberra's goal line defense basically is top 2 in the game. It pretty much what that stat tells you, that they can absorb, and they're going to be able to absorb whatever pressure Cronulla try and build. And like you said, they got a couple of chances, and maybe they get a couple more chances. You never know. Like it's footy, and that's why sport is sport, because there can be always something that happens that's unexpected that gets you a win. And we're saying that maybe that's what happened to Cronulla, and that's what we say when they beat these tougher teams. It's more about the other team shitting the bed than Cronulla being good. So it is going to be a different matchup. It feels like we're both on the same wavelength of tipping Canberra to take this one against the Sharks. And yeah, it is going to be due to that. I think Canberra will bounce back. Canberra have the skills to absorb anything Cronulla throws at them, and they have the weapons to be able to score. So yeah, I don't think you need to dive into this so much. It's going to be a matter of Canberra just having to bounce back, playing well at home, and getting the win on Saturday night.
Okay, so Canberra win. It's their goal line defense and their penchant to be able to deliver more consistent attack that will get them over the line against the Cronulla Sharks. You on to that?
Yep, 100%.
100%. All right, let's move on to the second game of the weekend. The Bulldogs, Canterbury Bulldogs.
Couldn't have scripted better, right?
They have featured so much on this podcast or this video session over the last second half of the season. And the mighty, mighty Panthers. Can the Panthers pull off the impossible? We spoke on a finals preview here on Ahead of the Game with Joel from League of Inches about how bottom 4, it's not bottom 4, the bottom 4 of the top 8, 5th to 8th, how they progress through finals. And they were not good numbers for the 8th place team, which the Penrith Panthers.
Won, right? None of the bottom 4. You'd never won from the bottom 4 in how long did we go back? 10 years.
Yeah.
And
I don't even know if the week they haven't won a final, and they also haven't won, I think, in the second week of finals. So they maybe win. Yeah. I think it was like 13% or something in the first week, and then it's 0% in the second week.
Because we were saying that coming 5th had just as good of odds as coming first, as progressing from that first week.
Yeah, in the first week, but then the second week, 5th to 8th is dropped. I think there was one team of 6, I think, that had won, and that team was 5th. So here, the trends say that the Bulldogs should win, but I can't tip against the Panthers.
No way. No way. It's the old, what is it? The old Jedi, the Master versus the Padawan now, which is like, it can't be scripted even better. And it'll be huge for the Bulldogs and Cameron Ciraldo if they can pull a rabbit out of a hat and get the win against the Panthers, because obviously that's the dream for Ciraldo, to go up against Ivan Cleary and get the win. But there's not a chance. You saw it, like, even when the game was tight, watching Panthers versus Warriors, you never felt like the Panthers were not in control of that game. So you're going to take that against Canterbury, who have, I think, just as much trouble scoring tries as the New Zealand Warriors do. And the Panthers are able to absorb. They're back in this, like, how many points did the Warriors even score? Did they score 6?
6
They
points.
scored 2 tries, 6 points. So you just see that, like, at the end of the season,
No, 8 points, sorry.
Yeah. So the Panthers were defense was had an average of like 11 points against in the last, few games. Like, they were back to being phenomenal again. And they've found that they just control the play. And it's Nathan Cleary. Like, his kicking game was out of this world. And it's not just sort of his attacking kicks. You saw the crazy dropout he did as well that was across the ground. And it's like his kicks they're not afraid to kick on the third tackle, the fourth tackle, fifth tackle. They're playing even when it feels like, hey, you could put up an attacking kick here. They put it down in the corner on the fourth, like kicking from halfway. And it's those types of plays that make Penrith different from anybody else, because they don't shift from the game plan, even when you could probably feel like, hey, we've got a chance to score here. They stick to the game plan. It's kick early. The first few sets, we're going to pin our opponents down the other end, and they don't go off that. So, and they just build momentum. They make them work, and then they just run over you. And they're going to do exactly the same thing to Canterbury. Canterbury's defense you would say is stronger than what the Warriors' defense is, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be able to withstand what Penrith throw at them. And, there is an unknown in this game with Toby Sexton and Galvin partnering in the halves in attack. But I think you got two very vulnerable guys that you can run at, that where their centers and their second rowers aren't comfortable with those combinations in defense. And you watch Penrith attack those sides, find which one is the weakest, and then just hammer it and hammer it and hammer it and hammer it. And then all of a sudden it'll leak 3 tries at the end of the game, and Penrith will win 13 plus. Right.
Well, just looking at the head-to-head, the Canterbury Bulldogs won the game in August, 28-4, but
that was without all the Penrith. That was without all of Penrith's players. And just remember, in that game, Penrith were down a man, and Canterbury still didn't score.
Yeah,
with their second-rate team for 10 minutes.
And they ran away with it at the end. That's right. Yep. But the game earlier in the season, 8-6 to the Panthers. The Panthers had won 8 in a row against the Bulldogs heading into that that penultimate game there in round, I think it was 26. So the head-to-head screams Penrith Panthers in this matchup. And it was funny, like we spoke about this over the weekend. I kind of sat back and realised how many former Panthers and Premiership Panthers are in other teams now, just continually making the league better. And one of those is Stephen Crichton, who looks like he won't play in this game. And to your point about the defensive structures, especially in the centres, because the Penrith backline is so dynamic, and their passing skills, their ability to choose the right play is so good. Not having Stephen Crichton in your defensive line is a major loss for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, 100%. Their backline is in a little bit of trouble, really, like, isn't it? Because you're moving Matt Burton there, and also Montoya is out. So you've just got unknown combinations, defensive combinations all over the place. And then, obviously moving Galvin into the 6 and then Sexton into the 7. So, it's pretty shot. And you don't want to come up against Penrith when you're uneasy and unfamiliar. You need to be at the top of your game.
Panthers
this game's going to be tight, but it'll eventually blow out again, I believe, to Penrith.
Panthers had 1,559 run meters against the Warriors, which is massive for a finals game. 41 tackles inside the Warriors 20, completed 38 of 41 sets. they still had 8 errors and gave away 8 penalties, but still were able to have 61% of territory and 56% of possession. Like, this team could go on to win a grand final, and nobody's going to be surprised.
No.
It's unbelievable.
No. Yeah, it'll be the epic story. And then it'll be almost like, it feels like the dynasty is due to finish, right? Feels like it's due. And there probably wouldn't be any better way to do it than to win this one from 8th after a tough start to the season. Just goes, all right, we're the best team that's ever existed in rugby league in Australia. Could you easily make that call if they come from 8th now and win the grand final? Like, it's got to be up there.
No, like, I don't know, because I think some of the teams they've had in these other premiership years when they've been so dominant, they've been better teams. They've been, you can't even get within a whisker. This team is good. They're peaking at the right time, but I don't think the team, if you played the 2025 Panthers up against the 2023 Panthers, I think the 2023 Panthers win.
Yeah. Yeah, but doesn't it make this dynasty, like, now we're going way out of this game preview, but like, does it make the dynasty, the best dynasty of a team, the best ever? Like, that's what I mean. Like, not just this team. I mean, what is it? How many rings have they won? Are they 4 or 5? They're 5 if they win this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like 5 grand finals in a row, or played 6 grand finals in a row, won 5 in a row.
Yeah.
Like, and then come from 8th in that final year, and that's sort of the end. Who knows who they lose in the future, players wise, with all these new teams and expansion coming in. You think that they're going to have to take a hit. Dynasty could be over. They could be the best team that's ever existed.
Still, numbers wise,
Canterbury this week.
Still hard to put anything close to the Dragons 11 in a row. But that's a different time, a different era, different football, to be honest. So, but this is definitely amazing. So we're backing the Panthers in this one. It'll be the Canterbury attack that's lacking, and probably a low scoring game as well, you'd expect.
Yeah, you would expect, especially up until Canterbury crack. Like, I'm expecting sort of low, but it could just eventually blow out with Penrith.
It still could turn out to be, 18-4 or something, and that's your 13 plus is done, and it's still only 22 points.
Yeah, like, man, like, it's going to be like, I'm just fluffing around now while we were like rounding up, just looking at the territory differences in Melbourne and Melbourne Canterbury, and 70% of the territory Melbourne had in the second half. Like,
but interesting here,
you're not going to win against Penrith having 30% of the territory, are you?
Our predictive modelling has this game going 22 points to 14 to the Bulldogs. I don't know how that number.
Be hanging my hat on that.
Yeah, no. You trust the data until you don't want to trust the data, and then
that's right. Finals footy, it doesn't count anymore. You can throw it all in the bin.
All right, let's get out of here. Find and follow bets.com.au. Links in the description to the NRL page over at Bets. The game previews will be out a little later in the week. Don't forget to comment who you think's going to go out of these semi-finals and take on the Storm and the Broncos in the prelims. Jez.
Hang with us and stay ahead of the game.